Poker's legendary champions, next generation stars, and tireless ambassadors of the game, sharing their wisdom and guiding your journey to high achievement on the green felt. This is Tactical Tuesday on Chasing Poker Greatness with your host, Brad Wilson.
Welcome, my friend, to another episode of the Chasing Poker Greatness podcast. This is a special Thanksgiving week edition of the podcast. You know, I was all content on taking a week off for Tactical Tuesday, letting everybody enjoy their time with their family, not making my producer, edit an episode. And John was like, no, we can't take a week off, Brad. They need us. They're going to be in the airport waiting around, looking for something to listen to or watch. And yeah, we just got to come through. So
yeah, I don't want people to be like sitting at their gate, waiting for their flight, like refreshing the CPG channel, wondering why there wasn't a Tactical Tuesday out this week.
Yeah, it's that would have came back to haunt us, I'm sure. Lots of angry emails and messages on Slack and Greatness Village. Speaking of like the Thanksgiving traveling and holidays and stuff, my wife flew out yesterday from Atlanta, and there was like an active shooter. They thought it was an active shooter situation.
I read about this.
Yeah, it was like crazy. Basically, there was no active shooter. It was like a gun accidentally discharged because a felon, in very smart fashion, decided to go through a security check with a gun in their bag. And, felons can't own guns. And so he freaked out when it showed up through the scanner. He tried to grab it. When he grabbed his gun, it went off, and chaos rained down at the Atlanta Hartsfield airport. And I gotta say, them like grounding everything for 2 hours, like we were looking at Google Maps, and it said as busy as it gets for the airport. Like you can't get any busier than it was yesterday with a 2 hour delay. So yeah, people yesterday at the Atlanta airport, if they didn't poop their pants and weren't afraid for their lives, they could have been watching some CPG, some Tactical Tuesday while they were laying on the ground hoping that they didn't get shot.
Oh. So if you too find yourself at an airport this week, like with nothing to do for 2 hours, you can thank us.
There you go. I do want to say too, before we dive in, just really quick, there's a lot of people that have helped with this podcast, Chasing Poker Greatness over these last couple of years. And I have not been a great person who has shown my gratitude and appreciation in a public way, but Chris Godfrey, the producer for Chasing Poker Greatness, give him lots of love for always being like, I'm thinking about adding a new episode, and he's like, yeah, let's do it. Like, let's get it done. Let's add more. Just always willing to, produce more and more episodes, always turns it in on time, sometimes forgets to edit out the parts where I say, hey, Chris, edit this out. But that's okay. We can forgive that. My assistant, Gwen, anybody that's bought a course knows Gwen. She delivers all the PDFs, adds everybody to the right place. She uploads these both videos and audio podcast episodes every single week on time. She promotes them on Twitter. She messages everybody. She thanks them. She gets the interviews arranged. She does the work, and I'm just very, very grateful for Gwen, and thankful, since this is Thanksgiving week, thankful for you, John, for, making me do this episode when, I tried to get out of it.
Designer.
Oh yeah. Brandon, my designer, who helps with the, the CPG, the ads that you may be looking at on Facebook, just the episode designs, Lucia, who helps with the Tactical Tuesday logos, Nuffle, Tactical Tuesday, all the things, very, very grateful for her. Yeah, it's a good team that I have here, and I hope I haven't left anybody out. Coach Thomas, thank you for starting Tactical Tuesday. That's led to, the version that we have today. Maybe one day he'll make some sort of guest reappearance. We'll see. But and thank you for the audience, the listeners, for loving the show, giving us the feedback, all the folks that buy the courses, that get private coaching, that, supports and fuels all this content. Just many, many thanks. And yeah, I think that's it. And so now we can actually break down some tacticalness in this Tactical Tuesday
Yeah, we've been
episode.
staring at this King Queen of Clubs for like forever now.
Well, you have. The podcast listener had no idea, but now they've been thinking about the King Queen of Clubs. You put it out there like psychically. Let's talk about the setup here.
Yeah, so this is actually some footage from another one of Brad's students. I don't know. Do we care about naming him?
We do, because he's not just a student. He's going to be the associate coach at Chasing Poker Greatness. Whenever I take a step back in January, I'm training him up. He's, watching footage of past coaching sessions, going to be asking me questions and just coaching him up to help better serve private coaching students so that I can focus on CPG Wolves. So yeah, Shu, this is Shu's video. And now you can break it down.
Yeah. Okay. So we're playing 500 NL on Bovada, playing 6 max. We're actually 5-handed right now. Shu is in middle position. He's first to act with King Queen of Clubs. He opens to $12.50, folds around to the big blind, who 3-bets to $40. Shu mentions this in his recording, but this 3-bet sizing from the big blind is very, very small and probably indicative of like a weak reg, maybe even a fish. $40 would be the size, $40 or 8 big blinds would be the size that I think I would mostly expect to see from an in-position 3-bet, and I would expect out-of-position 3-bets to be significantly larger than 8 big blinds, probably like at least 11, facing a 2.5x open. So I think we can already start making some assumptions about the big blind based on his 3-bet sizing.
I think yes and no, because we are 200 big blinds deep here. So we didn't talk about the stack depth, but Shu's opening. Shu has like a lot of money in front of him, and the big blind had about 200 big blinds. So maybe that influences their 3-bet sizing. But in general, I would agree with you that, yeah.
I think being deeper and 3-betting out of the big blind should make you want to 3-bet larger than normal instead of smaller. But I don't know.
I think it's debatable, but whatever. We can debate it another time.
Right.
So anyway, Shu defends with his King Queen of Clubs. We see a flop of 10 of clubs, 6 of spades, 4 of clubs. There's $80 in the pot, and the small blind starts out with the big boy betting $70.
Yeah, I don't mind it too much on this board texture. Honestly, it's very, very big, but you could definitely make a very strong strategy with this size being in play as your c-bet size after 3-betting.
All right, so the action's on Shu facing this $70 bet into a pot of $80. Shu has second nut flush draw. Any decision here, John?
Don't think so. Probably just pure calling every single time.
Yeah, Mr. John and his not raising in positions.
Okay, tell me why you'd raise the King Queen of Clubs here then.
I wouldn't. Okay. I'm just saying. Well, basically, as I asked you, I realized, oh yeah, of course he's not raising. Like it's just, it's kind of like a wasted question. But yeah, no raises here for you. You flop top set. You're just flatting.
Yep.
All right. So flatting range. Turn is the 9 of clubs. There's 220 in the pot. Villain has 900. SPR's about 4.5. And what does Villain do here on the turn? Let's see. They think for a while, and then they go with another big boy, 160.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Interesting size. I guess it's like a 3/4-ish size. I think maybe there's a more of an argument for raising this spot than there is on the flop. Although I would not be raising the turn. But I think maybe because of like stack depth, the fact that we started the hand 200 big blinds deep, we could come up with some reason to find a raise in the spot when we actually have really strong hands like flushes. And I mean, haven't really spent much time thinking about what the best bluffs would be, but what do you think about flatting versus raising here?
I think it's probably a must flat. like villains polarizing here on the turn. It's hard for them to have like jack high flushes. I mean, jack 8 of clubs, which is probably not a 3-bet, 7-8 of clubs. So an 8 high flush. I don't know what they do with an 8 high flush rather. I don't know what they do with an 8 high flush. I would imagine that they're put in quite the spot when we raise the turn here. And then they have, ace jack of clubs, ace deuce of clubs, ace tray of clubs, ace 5 of clubs, potentially maybe ace 8 of clubs, just kind of depending on their frequencies and their pre-flop strategy. So like basically they do have availability of having the ace of clubs. I just don't think that I would raise with this combo. We block the third nut flush. I don't think that's great for us. So yeah, I'm just pure flatting.
Yeah, it's just tough to construct a strategy that includes raising here. Just a sound, overall sound strategy that involves raising here anyway. So I do think like the simplification of just flatting range or flatting your entire continuing range is very, very reasonable.
Yeah,
and that's what Shu does.
Mm-hmm.
We call 160. There's 539 and 50 cents in the middle now. The board is 6, 4, 10, 9, deuce. Shu still has the second nuts with the king, queen of clubs, and the big blind disappointingly checks.
Yeah. Nice little deuce of diamonds on the river. So no board pairing, no shifting. And interesting that the big blind checks here. I don't expect them to check with their nut flushes at this point.
Yeah.
I expect them to bet. I expect them to be folding quite often. I haven't seen these hands actually. So that was something me and John talked about. Like, Brad, should you just watch the hands? And I was like, no, I don't.
I like this.
I
like this.
I got stuff to do. I want to come up with it like on the fly. I would bet small, probably 30%, and that's what I would do. But what would you do, John?
I would rip it. I think so. This was actually a note that I gave Shu like on this hand. I watched this peony and just made some comments, and I think Shu does end up jamming here, and he sort of regrets it because the big blind folds. But I think the big blind here is, like you said, just folding a lot, and I don't think that we like get more value from the big blind by like going small than we do from like going big. Like I don't think like there's a hand that the big blind calls the small bet with that like he doesn't at least think about calling the jam with.
Ace king with the ace of clubs.
Calling?
Not super concerned about them calling, but giving
like
them an opportunity to check jam, I think outweighs to me the benefit of jamming, because I think they're just going to be folding a ton, and so like giving them an opportunity to put the last bet in is what I would be going for.
That's a good point. I actually, now that I'm glad that we looked at this hand, because I think you're right. I think like I was just thinking like, okay, like he's just the big blind's gonna get here with like maybe some bluff catchers, and probably a bunch of air, and so like let's at least put those bluff catchers in like the maximum like pain spot, like whatever few bluff catchers he has. But I think you're right. I think like what we really want to do is get him to put the rest of his stack in himself, and the best way to do that is just probably bet really, really tiny on the river. I think I'd go less than a third now that you've
quarter, something like 110 or something
that his jam will get through,
and basically make it look like we're thin value betting, like we're trying to eke out some thin value with like a set or a straight or something.
Gotcha.
I think that the turn polarize bet for me is sort of what leads me to want to induce, because when they choose to go close to pot on the turn, like they're polarizing and like saying, okay, I've got a bunch of like maybe ace king with the ace of club type hands, ace queen with the ace of club type hands, and then I've also got some nut flushes, and we don't really care about the nut flushes on the river because like we're kind of indifferent, because we jam, they snap, we induce, they raise, we snap it, we go broke no matter what. But like trying to gain value from like their hands with the ace of clubs in them. I mean, maybe they have aces with the ace of clubs too, or it's just something like that they decide to turn into a bluff. Who knows? Maybe they polarize with some sort of like 6-7 of hearts on the turn and they decide to like go for it on the river. I'm not exactly sure, but I want them to put the last bet in with the bottom end of their polarized range that they bet on the turn.
Gotcha. Yeah. Now that you bring it up, I'm on board with that way more than my original suggestion of going really, really big and not having a small size here.
There we go. Cool. So
see, Tactical Tuesday is important.
Yeah.
What would I do if I hadn't learned?
No prep necessary for me. No prep necessary.
Well, you're the coach.
you gotta lead into the second hand though, because I have no idea what it is. hard for me to set it up.
Well, should we go to break first?
We are going to go to break. What are they going to find after the break, John? This is the segue that piques their interest.
The next hand, Shu is not going to have a good hand on the river. He's going to have a bricked draw, and we are going to talk about what size he should be bluffing. And I'm actually curious now that I've been corrected in this spot. I am a little concerned that my comment on the next spot is incorrect as well. So stick around and find out if I played both rivers poorly.
Before I got Nuffle, I had run into a lot of donk bets. And I think once you play a certain amount of hands, you know there's something wrong with our opponent's strategies, but you don't know how to play to maximize EV against it. And it's very frustrating. I looked at the document and I couldn't believe that I paid money for it. I actually doubted that it could provide value because it was so brief. But since then, it's repaid me just over and over and over again. And it's one of the most consistent moneymakers built into my strategy that sheds light on just how bad your opponents are. And it took me 20 minutes to perfect it. And it's just amazing. Yeah, I'm speechless. It's just that good. The simplicity of it is part of it being a masterpiece.
All right. Welcome back after the break that John so beautifully and masterfully set up for you. Let's dive into hand number 2. This, spoiler alert, I think we kind of gave away what's going to happen. But John, break down the second hand.
Yeah. All right. So this start hand, also at 500 NL, starts with Shu on the button with Queen 9 of spades. He opens 2.5x, $12.50. The small blind, who Shu has covered and will be the effective stack, starts with $660 and change, and he 3-bets to $55. Just to go back to last time, this is sort of the 3-bet size that I would expect from most regs in the pool, and so I would immediately think that the small blind is probably at worst a decent reg. Unlike the big blind in the last hand, who picked the $40 3-bet sizing out of position. So,
you heard that, ladies and gentlemen. All you have to do to be considered a somewhat decent reg is just 3-bet to 11 big blinds out of position.
He hasn't done anything that I can fault him for yet. Maybe he just knows the 3-bet size and that's all he knows. But still,
could be
he's off to a better start than the big blind in the last hand.
Yeah, incognito fish, but they're doing a good job pretending for now. So Shu does defend with his queen and his 9 of spades, facing the 11 big blind 3-bet. I think it's a hand that I would defend with. You just realizing positional advantage is really good in poker. From what I've heard, position's kind of a big deal. It's actually you hear it so much that it's like it's such a cliche, but like position. It's hard to like state how important it is. You can't overstate it. Like however important you think position is, like right now as you're listening to this, I guarantee you it's more important than that.
It's more important than I know that it's more important than I think it is now. Is like how like I've just learned every like single time I think like have gained the appropriate amount of respect for position. Like I get put in spots where I'm like, oh my god, position matters so much more than I thought it did.
Exactly. It is just like a really big deal. So Shu calls with his queen 9. He flops a flush draw. The flop is king of spades, 8 of clubs, 6 of spades. He has the queen 9 of spades, and villain starts out with a third, bets $36 into 112. What do you think, John?
Yep, just calling again. You know me in position.
Good old Jon calling in position. Okay. I mean, I guess we won't go into it. I mean, it depends on the reg strategy. Like, I think if reg is betting range here on the flop, like I don't mind raising with some of these hands. I don't mind raising with some like king queen hands. But and then, you know, our sets, of course, like 8s and 6s and king 8 suited and king 6 suited, which I believe I would have both of them as well, defending versus 3-bet. So like I would have raises here. Jon doesn't. That's okay. Shu does just call, right? Yep. Mm-hmm. Shu calls, and the turn is the jack of clubs. So now we have a gut shot to go along with our flush draw. What does this reg do? All right. Looks like reg bets about 2/3. Jon, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. I don't know. Polar sizing on the turn. This hand is going to open up a whole new variety of draws that the small blind could have. Not surprised to see the small blind go big on this turn if he does decide to bet at all. I think Shu has a pretty comfortable flat now that he's also turned a little bit of extra equity to go along with his flush draw. And yeah, so just pretty easy call for me here.
All right, let's call and see what happens, as they say. So we call, we see what happens. It's a 5 of diamonds. And for those listening in the audio version, the 5 of diamonds ain't shit. It does nothing. From the last yeah, it connects 7-9 of clubs and spades, so like it does connect that. But other than that, it doesn't really move the needle either way. There's 461 in the pot, and now villain checks, and Shu's at a decision, bet or check here on the river. I guess that's the first question that we'll answer.
We're not checking, that's for sure.
We got queen high. We're not going to be checking. Okay, so we answered that question. Let's move on to question number 2 of our sizing preference.
Yeah, I think that's actually, that was kind of the main point of bringing this hand up to Tactical Tuesday was this river sizing spot. I think if I was playing against, if you were playing against like a GTO bot or something like that, I'm guessing that the sizing that, let's say, like Pio would recommend here would just be jam with your value and, you know, whatever bluffs that you have, like hands like these. In reality, though, I don't know that the small blind, I don't think that the small blind actually is elastic to sizing at all in the spot. Like, I think when the small blind goes bet, big bet, check river, I think that the small blind is folding all his hands to a small bet and folding all his hands, the same hands, to a big bet. And so I don't know that the big bet accomplishes anything more than the small bet does here.
Yep. I would use the small bet, probably a 1/3 on the river, and then just play the next hand.
Yes. One out of 2.
1 out of 2, and it's a small bet bluff on the river, which is not a bet that you historically have found very easily.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I don't like doing it. It doesn't feel great to like give your opponent great odds to call when you have queen high, but I think this spot is like very unique in the sense that like it just really just sticks out to me as a spot where like the big bet just won't fold out anything that the small bet doesn't already fold out.
You know what's sad about this situation? Like, I say that I would use the small bet, and I would. I'd probably go about half pot, I think. Maybe a 1/3, maybe half.
Yeah, I'd go a 1/3.
The thing is, like, if I face a 1/3 here, I would call with ace high. Like, ace deuce of clubs, ace deuce of spades, ace 3 of clubs, ace 3 of spades. I mean, I may call the half pot. I may call the all in. I'm not sure. Like, I would actually call with ace high here quite frequently with so many available missed draws. Okay, going back to like the spectrum of sizes we can use. Yeah, seems like I'm inelastic with my ace highs. I think like,
which is all we really care about, by the way. Like when we have queen high, is
sure.
Yeah.
Well, because like we beat the only hand that we lose to is queen 10 high, right? So anyway, I think we can go with a third. I think it's fine. And just kind of, again, move on, play the next hand. Let's not overthink this, Brad. Just go small, play the next hand. What does Shu do?
Let's find out.
Let's see what Shu does. Looks like he's loaded up the clip, and Shu is going full on barbarian mode of jamming.
This is usually just, I want to get the job done.
Let's get the job done. Let's fold out these ace highs. Like you said, when villain polarizes the turn, like if they have a set, if they have like top two, I don't think they're folding to the jam. So I don't think that's like folding out any extra hands. So yeah, I don't really love this sizing choice by Shu. And that's it.
He does get the fold though. I mean, we should at least give him some credit. Like,
yeah, but we don't know what they folded.
Probably the worst hand.
Yeah, they probably folded the worst hand, right? Like, I mean, there's an argument that can be made that like queen high has some showdown equity. Like, yeah, do we have? I mean, I'm actually being honest. Like, we do have some showdown equity, but we block 9-10. I don't think that's great. We block queen 10, which I think is good because that's like the best queen high that beats us. If we have ace high, I wouldn't bluff the river because I think that we just win often enough to check back.
Yeah.
So queen 10 high is interesting because it's the best queen high. I'm not sure that we have to bluff queen 10 high because I think queen 10 high again is probably going to win quite often. So I'm not sure. I could go either way on queen 10, but anyway.
Yeah.
Any thoughts?
I actually thought of that like right when you asked me like, oh, what are we going to do on the river? And I was like, well, we have queen high, so we're definitely bluffing. I was like, do we? Queen high is actually not awful here.
Yeah, we're optimists here on Tactical Tuesday. Queen high, in a pot that has almost 100 big blinds in it, and a 3-bet pot that went like polar. we're finding like queen high. This could be the best hand. Like
this guy went polar on the turn. Like we could easily have the best hand.
We could easily win. Cool, man. Well, another Tactical Tuesday in the books. No rest for the weary. And everybody enjoy your Thanksgiving holiday. Best of luck traveling. Be safe. Have fun with your friends and family. And we will see you next week.
See you next week.
I stole your catchphrase.
Thanks for listening to Chasing Poker Greatness. You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts or on your favorite podcast app. Go to chasingpokergreatness.com to get the newsletter. Join the Greatness Village community. Book a coaching session, or dive into the latest data-driven poker courses. Follow the show on Twitter @CPG Podcast.